At 2:18 a.m. on November 23, 2022, a young woman named Jasmine Pace sent a location ping to her mother. A small gesture, a tiny reassurance to the person who loved her most. But that would be the last sign of life from Jasmine. Minutes later, everything changed. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Jasmine was just 22 years old, a college student with dreams, a heart full of love, and a family who adored her. She had no reason to fear the man she trusted completely, yet that trust would become a tragic weapon against her. How could someone you loved, someone you thought you knew, become the person who ends your life? This is the story of Jasmine Pace, a story of love, betrayal, and unimaginable tragedy. Today, we'll take you step by step through the final hours of her life, the clues she unknowingly left behind, and the shocking discoveries that would shake a community to its core. Every detail, every timestamp, every decision mattered, and none of it can be ignored. Before we dive deeper into Jasmine's story, I have a small favor to ask. If you want to help us continue uncovering cases like this, stories that deserve to be told, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it. Every click helps this community grow, and right now, we're trying to reach our first 100 subscribers. And while you're down there, comment on the name of the city where you're watching from. I love seeing the global community we're building, coming together to remember victims and learn from their stories. Your support allows us to continue telling these stories with the care, detail, and respect they deserve. Now, with that done, let's go back to November 22, 2022, the day that would change everything for Jasmine Pace and everyone who loved her. Jasmine Pace was only 22 years old, a bright and ambitious college student from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Known for her warmth, generosity, and unwavering devotion to her family and friends, she had a life full of promise ahead of her. But on the night of November 22, 2022, her world, and the world of those who loved her, would be shattered forever. The person she trusted most, her boyfriend, Chen, would become the agent of her tragic end. Within hours, Jasmine's life would be violently stolen from her, and her body would be hidden in a suitcase, discarded as if it were nothing more than trash. This is her story, the timeline of events that led to her death, and the investigation that exposed the shocking truth behind the man she loved. November 22, 2022, started like any other day for Jasmine Pace, but fate had other plans. That morning, she learned of the passing of her beloved great-grandmother. The grief weighed heavily on her heart, a quiet sorrow she carried as she moved through her day. Seeking comfort, she reached for the person she trusted most, her boyfriend, Chen. At that moment, she had no reason to believe that the man she loved would soon become the cause of her demise. As night fell, Jasmine made her way to Jason's apartment on Tmont Street in Chattanooga. The clock read 11:42 p.m. when she arrived, unaware that she was stepping into the darkest hours of her life. To anyone else, it seemed like a simple evening, the quiet routine of a young couple. But within apartment 210, tension and danger quietly began to stir, invisible to the outside world. Then, at 2:18 a.m. on November 23, Jasmine sent a location ping to her mother, Katrina Pace. A small gesture, meant to reassure her family that she was safe. That ping would mark the last moment anyone would hear from her. In the silence that followed, the first hints of horror were already unfolding. Minutes later, the quiet of the early morning was shattered. Courtney Brewer, a neighbor in the building, was jolted awake by screams and the sound of footsteps racing across the hallway. She would later recall how the noises came and went, and then, almost as suddenly as they started, everything became eerily quiet. Little did she know, those sounds were the final struggle of a young woman fighting for her life. Inside apartment 210, Jason allegedly struck, and in a matter of hours, the life of Jasmine Pace was brutally taken. Evidence would later reveal more than 60 stab wounds, concentrated, deliberate, and merciless. What began as a night of grief and seeking comfort had transformed into an unthinkable tragedy. By the morning hours, the chilling reality of the crime became apparent, and yet, Chen seemed unfazed. Cell phone records revealed him actively messaging other women on Tinder, a cold display of detachment while Jasmine lay dead inside the apartment. Hours later, he was seen at a Walmart, purchasing cleaning supplies, bath towels, and other items, a calculated effort to erase the evidence of his crime. 3 days later, Jasmine's mother, driven by a mother's intuition, discovered her daughter's car abandoned at Signal View condominiums. The seat had been adjusted for someone taller, a silent sign that Jasmine was no longer in control of her own fate. Armed with her determination and the evidence she uncovered, Katrina helped police secure a warrant to search the apartment, revealing blood stains, cleaning attempts, and the horrifying trail left by the killer. It wasn't until December 1, 2022, that Jasmine's body was found. Hidden inside a suitcase near Suck Creek Road, she was handcuffed, shackled, and stabbed 60 times. The evidence painted a picture of methodical, calculated cruelty, a stark contrast to the warmth and love she had shown in life. On November 30, 2022, Chen was arrested at his family home in Nolanville, Tennessee, his hands still bearing lacerations from the brutal attack. And after a long investigation, his trial began on January 13, 2025, culminating in a guilty verdict and a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Every date, every action, every choice mattered, a chain of events that turned grief into horror, trust into betrayal, and love into tragedy. This was the timeline of Jasmine Pace's final days, a story that would haunt everyone who knew her and shock an entire community. Jasmine Pace was the kind of person who made life brighter just by being in it. Born on May 29, 2000, to Katrina and Travis Wayne Pace, she had grown into a young woman defined by warmth, generosity, and an unshakable spirit. Friends and family often described her as dependable, compassionate, and endlessly patient, someone who never gave up on anyone, no matter how difficult the circumstances. She was a devoted aunt and godmother, taking care of those she loved with a quiet dedication. Her 4 cats were her pride and joy, treated with the same love she extended to people. Family was the center of her world. She maintained daily contact with her mother, sharing her hopes, fears, and even the smallest details of her day. To Jasmine, relationships weren't just important, they were sacred. At 22, she was a student at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, pursuing her dreams with determination. But her dreams extended beyond her education. She often spoke about wanting to build her own family one day, to continue the cycle of love and warmth that had shaped her childhood. She had a bright future ahead, full of laughter, connection, and promise. Yet, despite all her love and trust, Jasmine's life would be tragically cut short. Her untimely death didn't just take her away, it left a void in the lives of everyone who knew her. Friends would later say that the room seemed emptier without her, that her energy, her kindness, her laughter, they were irreplaceable. Jasmine Pace was more than a name in a news story, she was a human being, vibrant, loved, and unforgettable. Chen, the man who would betray Jasmine's trust in the most unimaginable way, was 5 months younger than her, also a student at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. On the surface, he seemed quiet, even shy, with a dry sense of humor that made him appear approachable. Friends and classmates remembered him as polite, occasionally funny, and outwardly unremarkable. But beneath the surface, Jason carried a darker side. Classmates from high school and college would later describe him as manipulative and obsessive, someone who had a pattern of stalking and impersonating others online. Friends recalled small incidents. Him snooping through belongings, creating fake personas to get closer to people, documenting information about classmates, that, in hindsight, painted a chilling picture. By the time he met Jasmine in early 2022 through a dating app connection, these patterns had only intensified. He had a compulsive need to know everything about the people in his life, controlling narratives and observing behaviors in ways that suggested obsession. To Jasmine, who saw the good in everyone, these red flags went unnoticed, invisible until it was far too late. As their relationship developed, Jason rented an apartment on Tmont Street in Chattanooga, where Jasmine would often visit. To outsiders, and even to Jasmine's family, they appeared to be a typical college couple. But behind closed doors, Jason was carefully documenting details about Jasmine, taking notes on her habits, her vulnerabilities, and her private thoughts. What seemed like affection to Jasmine was, in reality, the early stages of a calculated and deadly obsession. By combining outward charm with manipulative behaviors and obsessive tendencies, Chen set the stage for a tragedy that would shock the Chattanooga community and devastate the family and friends of Jasmine Pace. After Jasmine Pace disappeared, investigators faced the daunting task of piecing together the truth from fragments of evidence and fleeting clues. Every call she made, every message she sent, and every movement she took was scrutinized. Phone records revealed the last ping sent to her mother, a signal of life that quickly became a haunting marker in the timeline of tragedy. Digital footprints, location data, and surveillance footage began to paint a picture of what had occurred inside apartment 210. The chilling details emerged slowly. Chen's phone records indicated activity on Tinder while Jasmine lay lifeless in his apartment. A fact that sent shockwaves through investigators and the community alike. He appeared calm, methodical, even detached, a stark contrast to the violence that had occurred behind closed doors. But it wasn't only technology that told the story. Courtney Brewer's testimony, describing screams and footsteps in the early morning hours, provided vital witness accounts. And then there was Jasmine's mother, Katrina Pace. Driven by fear and intuition, she took matters into her own hands. Breaking into Jason's apartment multiple times, she collected phones, tablets, and notebooks, pieces of a puzzle that would later prove crucial in securing a warrant. Without her persistence, the trail to the truth may have gone cold. Investigators discovered blood stains hidden under carpets, chemical residues from cleaning attempts, and patterns suggesting Jasmine had struggled to escape. The meticulous nature of these actions revealed something far more sinister than a crime of passion. Chen had planned and executed this act with deliberate calculation, leaving behind a chilling trail of evidence that would eventually lead to his arrest. As the investigation progressed, the full scope of Chen's actions became horrifyingly clear. While Jasmine's body lay in his apartment, he reportedly continued interacting with other women on dating apps, a disturbing display of cold detachment. The contrast between the brutality of the crime and the casual pursuit of new relationships left investigators stunned. Forensic analysis revealed the sheer violence inflicted on Jasmine. She had been stabbed more than 60 times, the wounds concentrated in a single area, each strike a testament to the intensity and rage of the attack. Her hands and ankles had been bound, and her body carefully concealed within a suitcase. An act that underscored the calculated, premeditated nature of the crime. Nothing about this attack had been impulsive, every step had been methodically carried out to control, conceal, and evade detection. Even the post-crime manipulation was chilling. Social media posts were sent from Jasmine's accounts, creating the illusion that she was alive, while Jason attempted to throw friends and family off the trail. Old photos were reposted, text messages fabricated, and alibis carefully constructed. Every detail, no matter how small, pointed to a calculated strategy to cover his tracks. The revelations shocked the Chattanooga community and underscored the terrifying truth: the person Jasmine trusted most had meticulously planned her death. The combination of physical brutality, emotional manipulation, and digital deception created a web that investigators would slowly unravel, ultimately exposing the dark reality behind a relationship that had appeared ordinary, even loving, on the surface. When the truth about Jasmine Pace's death came to light, the impact rippled far beyond her family. The community was shocked, horrified, and heartbroken. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the gentle, vibrant young woman they knew with the brutal reality of her murder. Every detail, the 60 stab wounds, the binding of her body, the concealment in a suitcase, amplified the horror. Jasmine's family, grappling with grief and anger, sought ways to honor her memory while confronting the man responsible. Her cousin, Jacqueline White, performed a haunting symbolic gesture during the trial, dropping 60 stones into a glass container, one for each stab wound. Looking directly at Chen, she asked a question that echoed in the courtroom and beyond: "How are you such a coward?" Social media erupted with outrage as the story spread. People across the country questioned how someone could commit such a calculated, violent act against a young woman full of life and love. Online discussions ranged from shock and disbelief to heartfelt tributes for Jasmine. The case ignited conversations about trust, obsession, and domestic violence, reminding everyone of the dangers that can hide behind seemingly ordinary relationships. For those who loved Jasmine, every day was a painful reminder of her absence. Friends described how small things, her laughter, her texts, even her daily presence, were now missing, leaving a void that could never be filled. The tragedy of her death became a catalyst for awareness, sparking dialogue about warning signs, abusive behavior, and the importance of vigilance in relationships. Justice, though delayed, eventually caught up with Chen. On November 30, 2022, he was arrested at his family home in Nolanville, Tennessee. Evidence against him was overwhelming: surveillance footage, phone records, forensic analysis, and witness testimonies painted a chillingly clear picture of premeditation and deliberate cruelty. The trial began on January 13, 2025. Prosecutors presented meticulous evidence of the crime, from the blood-stained apartment to the concealment of Jasmine's body, and from the digital manipulation to the Tinder messages sent while she lay dead. The courtroom was tense, the air heavy with emotion as every harrowing detail was recounted. After hours of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 44 minutes before returning a verdict: guilty on charges of first-degree premeditated murder and abuse of a corpse. Chen was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never harm another person again. Though the law had delivered justice, the emotional scars remained. Jasmine's family continued to grieve, and her friends mourned the loss of a life that had been full of promise. The tragedy left a lasting imprint on the community, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the consequences of misplaced trust. Even now, the story of Jasmine Pace resonates, a story of love, betrayal, and the unimaginable consequences that can unfold when obsession turns deadly. Jasmine Pace's story is a haunting reminder of how trust, love, and vulnerability can be turned against us in the most unimaginable ways. A young woman, full of life and dreams, was betrayed by the person she trusted most. Her story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about obsession, manipulation, and the darkness that can hide behind a familiar face. As we reflect on Jasmine's life and tragic death, one question lingers. Was this a crime of passion, a moment of uncontrolled rage, or a calculated act of malice, meticulously planned and executed? The evidence points to premeditation, but the emotional weight of betrayal is something no investigation can fully measure. Her family and friends carry the pain of her absence every day, yet they also honor her memory by telling her story, ensuring that Jasmine's light, though extinguished too soon, continues to shine in the hearts of those who remember her. Every laugh, every kind gesture, every act of generosity she gave to the world lives on as part of her legacy. Now, we turn to you, our viewers. What do you believe? How could someone so full of life be taken in such a calculated, horrifying way? Comment below with your thoughts, and share your city. Let's connect and grow this community together. And please, like and share this video to honor Jasmine's memory, keeping her story alive for the world to see. Let us take a moment to pray for Jasmine Pace. May she find peace, free from the pain she endured. May her family find comfort in the love and memories they shared, and may we all be reminded to cherish the people in our lives, to protect one another, and to stand against violence in every form. Rest in peace, Jasmine, your light will never be forgotten. If you join us in this prayer for Jasmine, type Amen in the comments below. Let us unite in honoring her memory. Though Jasmine's life was cut tragically short, her story serves as a stark reminder: love should never blind us to warning signs, and vigilance, care, and awareness can sometimes mean the difference between life and death. Remember her, not just as a victim, but as the bright, compassionate young woman she truly was.